Hello, this is Ray Hall, and this is my report out video for week 1 of the Teaching Innovation Academy, Fresno State. The content of this report out video will be the redesign of Physics 4A. Dr. Sanchez made an excellent point that connecting with your audience, especially with pictures, so they know who's presenting this material, is a good practice. Here I'm going to do basically some random pictures, and the theme will be rocks. Here is Half Dome in the background as our first rock. The course we're redesigning is Physics 4A. Here's the catalog description. One point I'd like to make is that there is a prerequisite. It's Math 76 concurrently, which means they have to have had Math 75 prior to being enrolled in this class. Math 75 is university calculus, and it's crucial material that the students must master before they get in the class. The model that I'll be using from the 6 offered from the National Center of Academic Transformation is the supplemental model. So pedagogically, a lecture format with demonstrations and interactions and whiteboard work seems to be a good model. However, there's definitely some things we could change, and so this is going to be a model with major restructuring. Here's our second rock, a mysterious sailing stone found on the playa of the racetrack in Death Valley. It was there over spring break. No one really knows how they move. There's no video of these things moving, a lot of hypotheses on how they move around, but no one's actually seen one move, but they leave these mysterious trails. Back to Physics 4A. Why am I in this academy? Well, I think one reason is we have this problem here. Results from spring 12 and fall 11 of the grade distributions from my section of Physics 4A. Both these sections had 100 students, and as you can see, in the spring we had a 30% rate of D or F, and in the fall of 11 it was worse, it was 40%, and this seems to be standard, between 25 to 40% D or F, and this just seems unacceptable. Can we identify what needs to be fixed? And I think we have a little bit of an idea. Here is a preliminary study I did in 2007 where we gave a preliminary math quiz asking 15 questions that are the kind of algebra, trigonometry, and pre-calculus that would be used over the course of the semester on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis the overall class score that led to their grade for that semester. As you can see, there is a bit of a linear relationship here. Those that scored lower on the math test were more likely to get a lower grade. So I think in improving the math skills will really make a difference here. So this was fall 2007, actually 83 students on this particular scatter plot. Also, I thought Dr. Jones' section on reconsidering our syllabus was quite useful, and I will make some alterations that I'll report into you next week. Definitely want to align student expectations with mine in very clear prose. Also align course goals with specific outcomes for assessment, so both I and the students are really clear on what the outcomes are for them and what's expected of them. The next rock is Morro Rock, seen here far in the distance from a recent bicycle trip out on Montaña de Oro. This particular trail is called the Hazard Peak Trail. So my redesign has, in essence, 4 main components as I'm putting forth here. The first is remediation testing and supplemental content for math. The tool that we've come across is Alex. This is, I'll say more about this in a moment, but it seems perfect because it can be done in like a 6 to 3 week period, so it's not going to take the whole semester. We need them to have this material up and running in the first few weeks, and the students can enroll and take it at their own pace to some extent, but we can set a pretty tight deadline. The next huge component is to require completion of pre-lecture material once a week. And the tool I'll use is one we're already using, but we haven't used it in this way, is Mastering Physics. I'll say more about that in a moment. I also want to make some changes to clicker content based on some studies of cognitive psychology that shows that repeated testing and repeated recall through the process of testing is very effective in enhancing long-term memory retention. And I believe the iClicker might be the right tool for this. So I want to be able to design some clicker questions and place them out through the semester such that core material is repeatedly tested on. And then you get that recall and hopefully take advantage of these new findings. Finally, we do have some outcomes assessment. There's something called the Force Concept Inventory, designed and fairly famous in the circles of physics education research. A little bit controversial, but nonetheless it tests some very core principles, and it is one tool I'd like to implement with a pre and post test, probably through Backboard. Finally, Mastering Physics offers a number of diagnostic tools and offers comparisons to National Student Database on things like how well did every other student do on a particular problem or particular problem set. So these are some of the assessment tools I'm considering. First, ALEKS. So as we saw from my initial scatter plot, math skills are crucial to being able to process the physics. It's foundational. And if they're not there, I think that it really enhances their chances of failing. So ALEKS seems like the right tool for this. Here is a picture of a pie chart that demonstrates one important aspect. It individualizes the experience. So if a student is already proficient in a number of areas of math, it will not force them to do exercises on that. Instead, it only has them exercise where they're deficient. And so this may really streamline the process and also make the students not resent doing it if they already know the material. But if they know they need to brush up on some things, I'm in consultation with a vendor from McGraw-Hill on this, and it turns out, as you can see from this screen, there's already a module that seems ideal for the purposes that I'm stating. Probably some modification. I could make this so it's hopefully contained within a 3-week period, and my initial investigations show that it may cost no more than $20 for students to self-enroll. The next rock is Mount Russell, a very large rock, one of our tallest peaks in the Sierra range, but here I am sitting on the tallest peak in the Sierra range, which is Mount Whitney. Mastering Physics is the next tool, already in use by the physics department in both our 4 series and our 2 series, and it makes you, but we're going to do it differently this time, is we're going to make use of the content as pre-lecture content. And this will primarily be tutorial problems, which are extremely scaffolded. They're not intended to test a student's knowledge or test if the student has processed the material for that chapter, but to lead them step by step through a very scaffolded, systematic way through the different kinds of problems. So this seems ideal for pre-lecture content because they're not expected to have processed it yet. And in addition, we can add some reading questions. This is the content I will develop, such that we can make sure they did the readings fairly thoroughly and at least hit the core aspects. Here is a screenshot of a Mastering Physics problem. This would be more like the homework set, but I wanted to illustrate that there are these wonderful graphics. They enter their values in there. They usually get 6 tries to get the answer correct before they're barred from trying again. But I mentioned to the students, if you're on your 4th try, then take advantage of the physics department's student-led tutoring, which are primarily graduate students, that we have at least 12 hours dispersed through the week of open walk-in tutoring. We have the Learning Resource Center, and we have my office hours. So there's no reason they shouldn't get 100% on all of these problems if they come and seek individualized assistance. So this is one more area where both the Socratic method used by Mastering Physics and the availability of tutoring and office hours we can individualize to the student. The next step is to, in my redesign effort, is to create clicker content that does multiple testing on similar topics. So core elements of the course will be identified, and then clicker questions that will be tested on that core material will be emphasized. And hopefully we can take advantage of some of these findings from cognitive psychology. The next rock is a fossilized sand dune in the form of sandstone in the Valley of Fire. just an hour north of Las Vegas. Just beautiful area. So how am I addressing the 5 principles of successful redesign? Well, the first step is redesign of the whole course. Even though it's a supplementary model, I think these components I'm adding and also the restructuring of how it's delivered does constitute a fairly significant redesign. To encourage active learning, we have the iClickers, which mandate a level of interaction in class. Mastering Physics, the basis of its design is interactive, Socratic. Often there's many threads that can go off and help them get through a problem. There's feedback, and in terms of providing students with individualized assistance, we have Mastering Physics, we have our tutoring labs, and Alex, at least for the remediation level, is extraordinarily individualized in that it gives them a pretest and only has them work on those things that they need help with. In terms of building an ongoing assessment and prompt feedback to students, Mastering Physics, that's one of the wonderful aspects of it. Students get immediate feedback on whether they got the right answer, and they get a few more tries to get it. Alex works much the same way. In terms of the lecture component, the iClicker supplies both the student and the professor with feedback on whether or not the majority of the class is understanding the concepts or can work the problems. And a new component is this force concept inventory test, which is famous in the, as I mentioned, is famous in physics education research. We're going to apply that as a pre and post test to see if the most important concepts are getting through. Finally, to ensure sufficient time on task, Mastering Physics actually measures how much time each student works on a problem, and we can compare that to national databases on average times, as well as how many times it takes them to answer the problem, whether they get it right or not. So Mastering Physics offers this sufficient time on task and monitoring, as well as iClickers. So iClickers are another way for me to monitor an immediate feedback and for the student on whether or not they're understanding the lecture content in the lecture situation. So that's the quick synopsis of the efforts that I'm going to be putting forth, and I look forward to finalizing and giving you a final report next week of progress. Thank you for listening.